Good evening, YouTube. Welcome to San Francisco, California, and to the Haight-Ashbury District. You are with me, Mr. Natural, and we are in Mr. Natural's music school. Today we're going to go on with the training that we've been doing on ear training with rhythm and dictation. Now, last week we introduced you to these code words. The first code word for the quarter note was drum. And the second word that we're using for splitting the quarter note into two halves, equal halves, is Tarzan. So if these are each done with the same tempo or the same beat, drum, drum, Tarzan, 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 drum, Tarzan, drum, drum, Tarzan, 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 drum, 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 Tarzan, drum, drum, Tarzan, drum, 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 Tarzan, 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 drum, drum. And that's an example of hooking the code words together into a contiguous sentence, and then it generates these things. The other thing we talked about last week was how you can use the pointer of your pencil. So for this class, you will need paper, pencil, and something hard to put the paper on. So when you draw on the paper, you can actually hear the pen make a little tap, tap, tap sound. And what we're going to do today is we're going to take four beats, and we're going to put these code words up here into the 4 beats and construct a simple one measure 4/4 common time rhythm. And what we're going to do is generate that rhythm, and you'll listen, and then we'll show you how to write it down. So now today, we're going to use the tip of our pen. So if I tap out something, a rhythm on the board, for instance, if I go, do it again. What I'm hearing is drum, drum, Tarzan, drum. And if I take the tip of my pen, excuse me, if I take the tip of my pen and I put down the slashes, or the what's called the stem of the note, I can actually hear it as I make it. So I'm going to go drum, drum, Tarzan, drum now. Listen. Then I join together the two notes where the Tarzan were at. Let me do that again. Now, if you go in there and put little X's on here, there you have your rhythm generated as a drum part. For drums, they almost always use a little X. Now, for writing music later, we're just going to learn to put a little slash on it like this. And we're going to learn to use that slash to put notes on the staff later. But for now, we just need the stems are the most important thing. Now, there are, with drum and Tarzan and 4 beats, there are 16 total possibilities. We discussed them last week, and I asked you to try to figure them out for yourself, all 16 possibilities. And so what we're going to do tonight is, for the next few minutes, I am just going to do this dictation, and I'm going to use all 16 of these possibilities. So you'll get to hear what all 16 sound like, and if you're doing your homework correctly, you got your pencil and your paper in hand, you should be able to write down these, draw down these stems, put in your little flags where you need to tie them together, and you should be able to write out or dictate this rhythm. Okay, so the first and most obvious rhythm is this one. Let me take and put on the metronome. Now if you listen, you'll hear bell, tick, 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 bell. The bell is the number 1. It is always accented. And that brings up the first code word. The first code word is, I'll do it again. Okay, so that is just simply, listen. And then we put our stems on, and we put on our little faces on the stems, and you can see we have drum, 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 drum. And that's the first code word. Okay, now, the second code word, we're going to add in a Tarzan somewhere. So listen very carefully. I'll do it one more time. I'll clap it for you. I'll play it on the piano. Okay, you should have figured out by now it is drum, drum, Tarzan, drum. Did you all get that? All right, let's try the next one. This one is a little bit trickier. I'll draw it. And we put our faces on. And there you can see it's Tarzan, drum, drum, drum. Tarzan, drum, drum, drum. Y'all got that one? All right. Let's move on along here. The next one is one more time. So again with the pen. So I heard Tarzan drum, Tarzan drum. Tarzan drum, Tarzan drum. Next code words. If you're not getting this, please go back to the week before and watch the whole half-hour video last week. It should warm up your ear and get you used to what we're doing. Now, number 5. Listen again. Put our faces on. And there you have written out drum, Tarzan, Tarzan, drum. Drum, Tarzan, Tarzan, drum. Okay. Listen. It's harder when there's those quick little things at the end. Listen. I'll clap it for you. We should have heard drum, 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 Tarzan, drum, 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 Tarzan. Now, whenever there's a Tarzan on the end, it's harder to hear because your ear floats at the end. And we always think of a period or a full stop as being a quarter note, just a drum. So whenever you have a drum here on the end, it makes a small 4-beat measure that is like a period at the end of it. It's a complete sentence. But whenever there's a Tarzan at the end, it doesn't sound complete. It sounds like a comma, and that something is going to come after. So if you want to make two-measure rhythms, I suggest you put a Tarzan or something more complicated than a drum here, and it will cause the ear to float, and then you'll be able to add another measure of rhythm in there, and you can draw 2 or 8-beat rhythms. All right? So now we're going to start, this is going to start popping up. So you have to listen very carefully now. All right? Next one, easy peasy. Once more. On the piano. Listen. And so that one is Tarzan, Tarzan, drum, drum. Just going right along here. Now our 8th rhythm. If I can find it on my piece of paper. And you know what? I can't. Okay, so we'll try this. We'll go. Listen again. Pen. Drum, Tarzan, drum, drum. Drum, Tarzan, drum, drum. Okay, now our 9th one. This one's going to be tricky, so listen carefully. Listen carefully. With the pen. Again. I don't know well you can hear my pen out there. Hopefully it's noisy enough. So we have Tarzan, drum, drum, Tarzan, Tarzan, drum, drum, Tarzan, Tarzan, drum, drum, Tarzan. You see with the Tarzan at the end how easily it comes back and allows us to extend something else because it kind of sounds like a comma. Really hard to hear complicated rhythms at the end of the phrase. Okay, this one. Listen again. So you see we are dictating in real time. Now you'll find that when you listen to music, this will start happening. You'll start hallucinating or hearing in your head these code words. You just write them out. Moving along. Okay. That was drum, Tarzan, drum, Tarzan. Okay. Number 12. See how quickly we can do this? We can actually notate rhythm in real time. So if we are humming a tune that we've never heard before, or we're making up something at the keyboard, we listen, we can hear these code words, and we can sit and we can actually start writing out this rhythm almost in real time. Then you can go back and then figure out what the pitches are, and then write out the pitches. Later we're going to show you a technique that I call rhythmic curve. And in rhythmic curve, it's something that I learned once when I was on an airplane flying to Chicago to meet my brother and sister-in-law, and I was working on a piece, and I had no instrument with me to write, and I had these melodies in my head, so I was able to jot out the rhythm. But then what I did is I just created a thing I called rhythmic curve, which gave me a kind of an idea of whether the notes should go up or down, and I just made them go up and down without any staff paper. And then when I got to where I was going, I was able to use that as a mnemonic to trigger what I had heard on the plane, so I could actually figure out with the scale what I had heard in my head, so I could write it down. So it's a very powerful tool. Okay, now number 13. This one's going to be tough, so listen carefully. Again, and. One more time. Let's hear what it's... Put my flags on, put my note heads on, and you can see this one was Tarzan, 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 Tarzan. Tarzan, 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 Tarzan. Okay, the next one. I hope you're filling up your paper. It is a good thing to actually write these things out so you can visualize them. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit tricky. Erase. X. With the pen, and again with my pen I heard Tarzan, drum, Tarzan, Tarzan. Tarzan, drum, Tarzan, Tarzan. Everybody wants to come in the door when we're doing this. Okay, now 2 more to go. Listen carefully. Again. Tarzan, 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 drum. Put my heads on. Tarzan, 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 drum. Tarzan, 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 drum. Tarzan, 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 drum. Okay. One more. And we should have all 16 if I didn't miss any crossing off on my list here. Listen carefully. Listen again. Tarzan, Tarzan, drum, Tarzan. Put my stem heads on. Tarzan, Tarzan, drum, Tarzan. Tarzan, Tarzan, drum, Tarzan. So now what we've done is we've gone through all 16 possibilities. So if you hung in there with us, you've written down all 16 possibilities for the code words. That can get real annoying sometimes. So if you followed us so far, you've written down all 16 possibilities for drum and Tarzan. Next week, we're going to introduce a new code word. And the new code word will look like this. Instead of a single flag going across now, we're ganging 4 of these together with a double flag. Now technically, when you look at actual music, they make this top one thicker, and then the bottom. And this is L-I. Wait a minute. Help me, Angel. Al.
Yeah, A-L. L-I. Gator. G-A-T-O-R.
Alligator. So this one is, now I'm going to switch between drum, Tarzan, and alligator. Listen very carefully. Drum, Tarzan, alligator, Tarzan. Alligator, Tarzan, drum. Alligator, drum. Alligator, Tarzan, drum. Alligator, Tarzan. Alligator, drum. Alligator, Tarzan, jump. Tarzan, alligator, Tarzan, alligator, Tarzan, jump. So we're going to learn how to write those down, and we'll do some code word training with the new word alligator, which are what we call, the drum is called a quarter note. The two beats for Tarzan, each usually they play it with one little flag like that, and they'll usually draw them separately like that. We're putting them together, ganging them together as a whole code word to make it more convenient. And by the way, you could have a lot of those. I could go on. And that's Tarzan, Tarzan, Tarzan. As long as there's a single flag across the top, it's some version of Tarzan, no matter how many of them I gang together. And if it has 2 or double flag like that, then it's some form of alligator, and we call these 16th. They're referred to as 16th notes. So now we're taking a single pulse and dividing it into 4 syllables or 4 small micro pieces. So each beat can be divided into a single beat, into 2 beats with Tarzan, or into, 2 sounds, or into 4 sounds with alligator. So again, I recommend when you're walking down the street, if you're just, as I used to say, if you're just trucking around the Haight-Ashbury, while you're trucking down the street, just think these code words and just think of the whole code word for now. Later, we're going to start splitting these code words up into smaller pieces, and the first half of it or the second half of it may have no sound. It might be replaced with a rest, and you still have to hear the other part of it. Later, we'll show you how to do that, and as your ear gets used to the system, you'll find it very easy to be able to just hear pieces of these as well, and we can start throwing rests in. But for now and for the next few weeks, we're going to use the whole code word to replace an entire beat of rhythm. And don't forget, we drew these down on little cartons, which I'll bring out next week. And by just moving these little cartons around, you can show a rhythm, generate a rhythm, and have kids tap on the rhythm and have them write it down. So the idea is to associate the icon that we're seeing here on the board, something that we're seeing with our eyeball, with a sound in our head, and associating our ear, what our ear hears, with that code word. So when we hear that rhythm, it'll generate that code word in our head automatically. And by writing down the code words, we can write down the rhythms in real time. So I'd like to thank you all for coming to the class tonight. And next Thursday at 7:30, same time, same station, we'll see you again. And please do not forget to buy my books, Songs by Numbers. And these are just literally, we've numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 songs. We have in here about 30 really common kids songs that don't require any copyright. And then here is our Music Theory Decoded Strictly by the Numbers book. This has our entire method from soup to nuts in here, from very beginning to the most advanced. If you're extremely advanced performer, you're a very advanced theorist, you'll find the whole back half of this book very interesting, and you'll find the device that we have here called the intervalometer, which fits on your keyboard and shows you all the major scales, all the blues scales, the 3 different kinds of minor scales, and will help you figure out diminished scales, augmented scales, etc., because you can visualize them. And it's all in this book. So please go to Amazon.com or Lulu.com and buy Music Theory Decoded, Strictly by the Numbers. If you're in school and you need to get through it, this is the way. This has saved a lot of lives out there. I've had a lot of people write me and say, I couldn't get through school until I read your book. And this is a good way, if you can play a scale on a trumpet, or if you can play a scale on the violin, or you can play a scale on the guitar, you can immediately go to this book and start playing those songs right away in any key. The idea is to be able to play in one key well and play all of the songs in the book. Then later you learn new scales, and as you learn new scales, you use the same numbering codes that you used for the songs in the first place to generate in the new scales. And what happens is you'll either get the same sound in different keys, or by changing scale, going from say a major scale to a minor scale, you can actually change